Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, and the Vice President of Kenya. Lastly, it is presented by Excellency, ladies and gentlemen,
the secretaries that are here, honorable ministers from the government of Ghana, Secretariat. I'm very honored to welcome to Excellency engaged that in the time of being in Accra discussions. To express my to the President and to the government for supporting me in the second term in the position. President Ruto was one of the first heads of states to pledge support. That is whether it was Kenya or Ghana, instrument of ratification of the AFCFTA. I wisely stay out of this debate. What I would say, however, is that both countries, the first countries to deposit their instruments of ratification to the African Union, indicating and demonstrating not just political will, but to to the founding objectives of the Organization of African. And so it is a matter of, it is befitting to see and to witness the Secretariat was established here of Ghana and leadership was excellent. To make sure the AFCFTA succeeds. The AFCFTA, as a result of that support, is one of the leading projects. And so in less than 4 years' time, we have been able to demonstrate that where, as Africans, we act, we do the results all of us want to see. And the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Parliament of the Republic of the Trade Parliamentary Committee. As of Parliament, I noted that leadership excellency continues. And since His Excellency President was elected, Kenya has increasingly become a leading voice for shaping sustainable solutions to challenges that confront our continent. Allow me to cite a few of these examples of Kenya's. For the very first time, the African continent has a response to the climate change challenge. His Excellency President Ruto convened heads of states in Nairobi last year in September, and they developed what is now Africa's blueprint for confronting the climate change challenge, and that is the Nairobi Declaration. It enables us not only to speak with one voice, which is important. More importantly, the Nairobi Declaration puts forward solutions for adaptation and mitigation to enable Africa to our time. Second, under His Excellency's leadership, an outcome of COP28 that was convened, as we all know, last year, was the adoption of the Africa Green Industrialization Initiative, which ensures that as we accelerate industrial development on the continent, we do so by investing in green technologies that will drive industrialization whilst mindful of the environmental imperatives that we have to be aware of. Third, in February 2024, the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government, the Heads of States appointed His Excellency President Ruto to be champion on reforms, taking over from His Excellency President Kagame, and I believe all of us are eternally grateful to President Kagame for his work and all the efforts that he put into advancing reforms of the African Union. The baton for advancing reforms of the African Union is Excellency President Ruto, for us to see through the objective of reforming our institution so that it is fit for purpose and is able to respond to the challenges of our time. Fourth, in the area of reforms of the Your Excellency President Ruto We have been working with President Akufo-Addo in his capacity as a champion of financial institutions of the African Union to ensure that Africa is a leading voice in the global debate to make the international financial architecture more fair, more representative, and more responsive to the needs of the African continent. And so the fact that our heads of states have appointed you to lead the continent in these very challenging crises, climate change, reform of the African Union, reform of the global architecture, in my view, it is a testament to the confidence that the Assembly has in you and in Kenya to help the continent to navigate these challenges. And so in my address to the joint session of the Senate and the Assembly, Kenyans must be prepared to share their president with the rest of the continent. I am very happy that they were willing to share their president with the rest of us as we navigate as a continent these challenges. Your Excellency, under your leadership, Kenya continues to be a model of innovation, entrepreneurship, and steadfast dedication to an inclusive economy. In the area of the digital economy, Kenya continues to lead, boasting the largest green data processing and management center in Africa. With the reforms that have been undertaken in Kenya to ensure benefits of digitization of the economy and digital trade in particular, Kenya is well poised to be an immediate beneficiary of the protocol on digital trade of the AFCFTA. In addition, Kenya's active participation as one of the countries that traded, the first country to trade under the AFCFTA's guided trade initiative, exporting goods, value-added production to Ghana, to Nigeria, and other parts of the African continent. And here I must make special mention, Your Excellency, of Balozi High Commissioner Marine, who ensured that Kenya was one of the first countries to trade under the AFCFTA. As a result of all of these efforts, you will recall that in October 2022, yourself and I saw off a shipment, the very first shipment to be exported from Kenya to Ghana, which was value-added production, tea that was received in Ghana under the preferences of the AFCFTA. I always tell this as an example, I always mention this as an example of the kind of trade that we want to create under the AFCFTA, inclusive benefits, creating opportunities for smallholder farmers, and in this case, the farmers that exported the tea were farmers, smallholder farmers that the government of Kenya organized into cooperatives who now can credibly say that they are contributing to Africa's trade. I congratulate Kenya for the development of the National AFCFTA Implementation Strategy for the period 2022 to 2027, which marks a significant milestone on the journey to achieve our objectives. This strategy provides a for Kenya across Africa, which remains a very important export and import destination. We are inspired, Your Excellency, by your commitment to creating inclusive benefits of a national economy and to create opportunities for small and medium enterprises, for the youth, the hustlers. We share this commitment. That is why we are taking concrete steps to make sure that the protocols on digital trade and the protocol on women and youth in trade, that they actually are fully implemented, and we see the results. We see the results of an inclusive economy, inclusive trade, eliminating barriers for trade for young people in Africa, as well as small and medium enterprises. Some of the concrete steps we have taken include signing an MOU, $6 billion with Equity Bank. And here I am grateful to Dr. Mwangi for having stepped up to provide the support that is needed in the implementation of the AFCFTA. We have also signed an MOU with United Bank of Africa, where they committed to disburse $7 billion to small and medium enterprises, particularly small and medium enterprises that are led by young people. It has been reported to us that already $150 million under this fund has been disbursed. We have mobilized an AFCFTA adjustment fund, over $1 billion that has been made available by AfreximBank. We will mobilize up to $10 billion to ensure that in the implementation of the AFCFTA, small and medium enterprises, young people are at the center of benefits. Of course, that we all realize the ambitions and the goals of the AFCFTA. It presents an unprecedented opportunity for our continent to continue to break the legacy of colonialism. That effort to break the legacy of colonialism, as we all know, started in May 1963 in Addis Ababa at the formation of the Organization of African Unity. We are therefore well poised, a continent of 1.4 billion people, with a combined GDP that is projected by the year 2050 to be close to 16.2 trillion United States dollars. We are well poised to be a single market that is globally competitive, that has advanced industrial development capabilities, that has food security to feed herself by eliminating barriers to trade in intra-Africa basic agricultural products, well poised to achieve all of these objectives in time, where, of course, we implement the rules of the AFCFTA. And so, Your Excellency, as I draw to a close in my welcome remarks, I emphasize that the AFCFTA is probably Africa's last opportunity. Probably Africa's last opportunity to break down this colonial economic model, to ensure that we have a movement of persons across the continent, to create jobs for millions and millions of young Africans, to bring smallholder farmers into the formal trade of the African economy, as we have seen in the example that I cited of smallholder farmers in Kenya who produce value-added tea. I believe all of these very, very high ambitions are achievable. They are achievable under the leadership of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government and under your leadership, Your Excellency. I believe where we fail to take advantage of the AFCFTA, that our continent will forever be at the periphery of the global economy. We therefore must accelerate our efforts to implement this agreement. There will be challenges, there will be difficulties, but of course we know from the history of the European Union, we have observed the lessons of market integration in Europe. We have taken heed and advice where mistakes were made in market integration and in creation of a single market. And as a result, our heads of states have adopted an agreement that I believe sets Africa apart in a number of ways. The AFCFTA is the only trade agreement that I am aware of that has legally binding obligations to create opportunities for young people and small medium enterprises that are led by women. The Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade transcends all of the aspirations that we have had, correctly so, and codifies these aspirations of creating equality in the economy, for eliminating barriers to trade, and codifies them into legally binding obligations. As Africans, we must be proud that we are a trailblazer in this sense, the very first kind the very first of its kind, a protocol that eliminates barriers to intra-Africa trade for women and youth, has happened here in Africa. And so Your Excellency, I welcome you and the Cabinet Secretaries and your delegation very warmly to the AFCFTA Secretariat, and we look forward to your visit for the next day and a half. Thank you very much.
We thank you, Your Excellency, for your welcome address. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like now to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya to introduce the President.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Your Excellency, the Secretary General, Wamukele Mene, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we cannot talk about Africa Continental Free Trade Area unless the people driving this agenda have had a minute or two to say something. So, Your Excellency, with your permission, I would like to request the Minister for Ghana, I think she was here. Okay. Other than that, let me also request the Minister responsible for matters of African Continental Free Trade Area in Kenya to step forward for a minute or two, just to highlight one or two things. And then thereafter, we can get His Excellency the President to speak. But in the meantime, may I acknowledge that there is a Minister for Defense from Kenya, and Honorable Duale, and the Minister for Lands in Ghana. We are looking for titles. Thank you.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to join His Excellency on this visit to the Africa Trade House, the kitchen that will cook the trade in Africa. This is the place where the African dream of boosting intra-Africa trade is being developed to achieve the aspirations of the agenda in relation to the African Continental Free Trade Area. Kenya is a pioneer and champion of the AFCFTA in many ways, but mostly I want to highlight two. Kenya was among the first African countries to not only sign the AFCFTA agreement, but also to ratify it. We are glad that in the debate, the name of Kenya is mentioned. Secondly, we take pride as one of the first countries to successfully export to Ghana under the Guided Trade Initiative. Kenya, as a champion of African integration, will continue to support the initiatives that enhance the continental framework and continue to provide thought leadership to ensure that the AFCFTA delivers its promise to the over 1.2 billion people of Africa. And we believe that this will make Africa great. The 37th Assembly also adopted the AFCFTA Protocol on Digital Trade and endorsed the recommendation of Kenya to be the champion of digital trade under the AFCFTA. I wish to express gratitude most sincerely as the champion of digital trade. I am looking forward to working with the Secretariat to ensure inclusivity of women and youth, to take advantage of the digital space for economic development within the framework of the AFCFTA. This work is of utmost importance to us and the continent, recognizing not only Kenya's significant strides in digital transformation and created by the success of M-Pesa and of the Pan-African payment and settlement system, but specifically what the AFCFTA protocol on digital trade promises for Africa. And we have many gains that will come with the digital trade. Your Excellency, Kenya recently was rated as the leading destination of choice for investments and investment momentum in Africa. In the recent past, we have expressed our desire to host two agencies of the AFCFTA, that is the Pan-Africa Trade and Investment Agency and the Pan-Africa Payments and Settlement System, and believe the Secretariat is giving it due consideration. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Madam Minister. I think I was justified in getting her to this podium. Your Excellency, I'll be very brief because time is of essence, and we would like you to have ample basically pointing out the fact that as Africa, we cannot cry ourselves out of poverty and out of challenges. We have to work ourselves out of poverty and out of those challenges. And that is why we are here. And one person, ladies and gentlemen, who has been at the forefront, being very passionate as a Pan-Africanist, and also being very passionate in saying that we cannot continue crying, we must find solutions, is none other than President William Samoei Ruto. And I would like to request that you be upstanding so that we can welcome him to the podium to make his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Cabinet Secretary. Please let's take our seats. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation by the President of Ghana, whom I've had occasion to meet in very extensive conversation with him earlier today. I have found my way to this great organization that I am very passionate about. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is the single most important instrument, the most potent instrument for the transformation of our continent. And I want to thank you for the warm welcome to the Secretariat of the Africa Continent. As Secretary General of one of Africa's flagship projects, the AFCFTA. I know you mentioned that countries that supported your re-election. I don't know whether that you won. You won term. That we had during your official visit to Kenya in March 2024, where I really full support to this organization future extraordinary session of the Assembly was a milestone in market diversification and underpinned by technology transfer within our economies and from outside. You have said there is a contest between who deposited first the instruments of AC. I thought it was settled. And it was settled in an amicable win-win fashion. That, let me put it in context. This weekend, over Easter, I went to a restaurant. This gentleman so I don't know whether I think it was settled that that's why Ghana eventually hosted the Secretariat. And we are very proud of what the government of Ghana has done. That the Secretariat is appropriately facilitated to take up its central role in the integration of the African market. I'm pleased with the progress that has been made in laying the foundation and operationalizing the AFCFTA Secretariat under very difficult circumstances. He came here with his family in the middle of COVID and determination to do a job. The AFCFTA is a promise to the people of Africa to significantly contribute to the attainment of the Agenda 2063 and to ensure that no one is left behind. It drives the continent towards integration, political stability and unity based on the ideals of our founding foster industrialization and regional competitiveness through the creation of regional value chains and improved agro-processing and expanded markets for meaningful intra-Africa trade and jobs for young people especially of our continent. President Nana Akufo-Addo told us this morning some significant statistics that intra-European trade is all the way to 73, is down at 12, maybe 14, maybe 15%. And it speaks volumes of but the potential that exists for us to grow our trade. I commend your relentless efforts in successfully steering the conclusion of Phase 1 and Phase 2 negotiations in trade in goods and services, and I urge you to stay the course and conclude the remaining ones and also oversee their implementation. To ensure effective implementation, Kenya strongly supports the establishment of regional offices and is keen to host the East Africa Regional Office in Nairobi. Kenya looks forward to integrating Africa's financial sector in ways that promote intra-African trade as well as speedy operationalizations of the policy and research development initiatives that you and me discussed when you came to Kenya, and we were both at trying to consolidate this position. I'm very happy I was with Okele when we launched the first trade facilitation under AFCFTA, under the Guided Trade Initiative, where we flagged off the first Kenyan tea and other products that came to Ghana and to the West Coast. I just, while we were walking around the exhibition hall, business people told us that after that first initial flag off, there's been many more, and the frequency is increasing, meaning that we are in the right trajectory. Let me confirm that in February this year, when we saw the instruments that consolidate the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement by the AU heads of state, and I want to confirm that as part of the reform, the Africa Union a fit-for-purpose organization, we're going to consolidate our place in making sure that the 1.4 billion people market in Africa becomes a that will provide opportunity for trade, for investment, for business, for commerce, so that we can create prosperity that nobody behind, and shared prosperity that brings on board the majority of the people in our continent. Talking about digitization and technology, we are great believers. Democratizes opportunity. Technology improves efficiency. Technology improves accountability. And therefore, technology is going to dictate the pace at which we move our goods, our services, our products, and our progress. And I want to encourage AFCFTA to work with the other of the Africa Union in making sure that we leverage on technology to accelerate the movement of goods, of services across our country, and also to accelerate progress in all other fields. I had a on facilitate trade in our continent, and instruments, financial instruments, and I was very happy on the and Ghana on how to move this into the future. You're all aware of $5 billion every year just dealing with exchange rate issues between our trading business people. $5 billion money in any currency. Therefore, by the AFCFTA to provide a payment settlement system for all our traders, so that trade in Africa can be carried out in any currency, and there will be a mechanism to make sure that once that trade is over, there will be somebody to provide settlement facility and to ensure that we do not lose because of currency differentials between one currency and another. And when we say this, we are not saying we are against any currency. No, we just want to fend for ourselves. We just want to make sure that in trading we don't lose because of different exchange rates and different currencies. And I want to specifically underscore the importance of us working together and building synergy and creating. And I will be working with President Nana Akufo-Addo. All financial institutions under the fund, to the bank, to the insurance, are all ratified so that we can build the necessary financial ecosystem for trade, investment, and business in our continent. This is what all other regions are doing, and we must step up and do it for our continent. I want to come, because I know we have leaders here, that it is our intention as heads of state to make sure that we reform the African Union to make it fit for purpose. As we talk today, we have a fairly dysfunctional setup. We have an executive that has no accountability mechanism. When I went to address the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa, they were not sure whether they were part of the African Union, because nobody asked them nothing. And so it is necessary for us. There is no bureaucracy that works unless you have serious accountability. So it is necessary for us to reinforce the place of the Pan-African Parliament. It is important for us, if we have to have an African Union that works for the people of our continent, it must be accountable and must be a mechanism to adjudicate, a court to adjudicate on matters that affect our organization. Without a court to adjudicate, without a parliament for accountability, it is not possible for us to have an optimal organization that works for us. And therefore it is necessary for us to move in that. I tell you, good people, that while our continent has been profiled before negatively, being a continent allegedly of disease, poverty, conflict, war, and the rest of the negative things, we have taken it upon ourselves for our continent. Because indeed, this is a different continent from the one that we have been profiled about. We are a continent of great opportunity. We are a continent that has 65 of the world's arable, uncultivated land. We are a continent with 60% of the world's renewable energy resources. We are a continent with between 30 and 40% of the world's mineral resources. We are shortly going to be the single largest market in the world. That's our continent, and therefore it is our responsibility, because it is said by one great leader from Nigeria that until the lion learned to write, all stories glorified the hunter. So we have to learn to write. And I promise you, we are going to write our own story. And it's going to be a great story. Apart from setting up financial institutions that will underwrite and support our trade, investment, business, and commerce, we also want, because we have tremendous possibilities, great potential, huge opportunities, investment potential. We've also agreed that we've been to many capitals in Europe, in America, in Asia. So invite them to come to our continent. So we are slowly working on a mechanism where we will have the Africa Economic every year. We will have it for about 3 or 4 days. On day 1, we will invite China. On day 2, we'll invite the US. Europe. On day 4, we'll invite the next guy. And so we will make better use of our time. And we will make it better for everybody to engage with us. Because in any case, any serious business people who are not thinking about Africa will shortly. So we must position ourselves appropriately. And AFCFTA is going to be our vehicle. Mr. Wamkele Mene is going to be our vehicle for positioning Africa appropriately to be the epicenter of trade, of investment, of commerce. And I am very confident that that will give us the opportunity to be the continent that we should be. So thank you very much for listening to me. I wish you well. And asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Asante sana, Your Excellency, and thank you for your speech. Have a seat, please.